Michigan sets football back 100 years. Oklahoma makes a change at quarterback, and the Pac-6 looked like they would be the Pac-10, and then they're back to the Pac-6, and now we're up to 7, and who knows how many more teams are there going to be, but Temple could make it in there. Hashtag Temple Talk. We got it in early this time.
Hey,
got it in early this time. Added in the intro. Week 5 is upon us, but we cannot start before we talk about week 4. And William, there was a lot that has happened in the last week alone.
Yeah. Billy Napier still has his job, so he's still drinking.
Somehow, Billy Napier he's fighting hard to keep that job. There's still odds out there for who's going to be the next head coach, but Billy Napier is still the current one.
Yeah, he's staving him off. He's got his chair and he's fighting up the line like he's at the circus. This is fun to watch.
But the question is Billy Napier still going to be the first head coach fired, or is there going to be somebody else before him?
I don't know. I was thinking about that today, and like Sam Pittman comes to mind pretty quickly, but like I think he protected himself with that Auburn win. And then I'm thinking in the ACC, I'm thinking Wake Forest. I'm like, I don't know. Like, what are their expectations? I'm thinking Mike Norvell. No, I don't think. I think 1 year is not going to do enough. Then I think Mac Brown, and
Mac Brown offered to step down on Saturday after that absolutely beat down by James Madison. So I didn't watch the noon game because I was at the Ohio State Marshall game. And I look at my phone because Twitter's like blowing up about this James Madison game. And they have like 60 points at halftime.
Jake, the craziest thing is, so it was 53. I forget how many UNC had. JMU only scored 17 points in the second half.
Yeah, it's like 53-24 at halftime. I was like, what is going on in this game? Like, the first quarter was pretty normal. Like there was a lot of scoring, but it wasn't anything crazy. And then the second quarter, I think James Madison scored like 5 or 6 touchdowns in the second quarter alone.
Yeah, it was just bad football from UNC's part.
Every comment was, this game is drunk. This game is drunk. What is going on? Why is this game getting so ridiculous?
Yeah, it was insane. Like, it goes back to the classic Mac Brown. Like, why can't he get a defense at UNC? Like, his Texas days, like, they were known for their defenses. Why can he not? He has not been able to get a defense, he says, at UNC, and I can't figure out for the life of me why. Some of the things I've heard is that they don't take practice seriously, and I don't know what that means. I've just heard a couple of analysts just say, well, a lot of people from the UNC insiders are saying they don't take practice seriously. Well, how much do insiders know? They're not there unless they're talking to the coordinators. I don't know. So it's a weird situation.
Yeah, and I mean, I've thought this for a while that Mac Brown, I mean, he's above 70. He's above the age of 70. He's not got many years left. It's clearly looking like it'll probably be his last season here. If he's already offering to step down after that loss to James Madison, my inclination is that this is going to be his last season coaching.
Well, he did walk that back, Jake. He said that was that was out of context. He said he asked the players what they thought he should do, and then he's like, well, I probably shouldn't ask young people what I should do with my life. He said, plus, and I want to get this in neon lights over my man cave. When I lose on a college football Saturday, I go to a dark place, so I should probably keep my mouth shut. I want that over my man cave, so that way when people are here during college football Saturday and something's not going my way, I can just turn the light on. Hey, you don't come in. It's closed. You are closed. You don't come in. If the light's off, come on in.
You're right. And so back to our original question, I think Dave Aranda is another name to watch.
Yeah.
The tenure at Baylor has not been good. They've struggled to cover the Hail Mary not once, but twice against Colorado. Shadur Sanders got loose, hits the receiver actually in the chest. Like, it bounced off of his pads. He missed it with his hands. It bounced off his pads around the 5-yard line. They had 2 seconds left. Receiver gets open again in the end zone. I don't know what the defense was going. And also, they missed a field goal to go up 10 points with 3 minutes left. I mean, Colorado only got to the 50-yard line, but it's far enough to obviously throw a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Did not play well in overtime. They fumble the ball through the back of the end zone. Travis Hunter is looking like he's going to be a top 5 pick. He has
what a play.
One. He had over 100 yards and also made the game-saving forced fumble into the end zone.
That was he put his head right on the football. That was unbelievable.
Oh, it was a great play. I know Travis Hunter gets a lot of hate because he's with Colorado, But if Travis Hunter played for probably 75 different programs, he would be widely considered the Heisman favorite right now.
Do you think he could do what he does in the SEC? Maybe this is an ignorant question, but like I'm looking at like the Pac-12, which is where he was last year, and the Big 12, and I'm like, man, like the competition is good, so I don't want to knock them down, but like I just don't think you could do that against Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama week in and week out.
Do it to a certain extent. I don't know if he could do 100 plays week in and week out. That's unbelievable. A lot of time. You're getting no rest on either side of the ball. I think if you put him on an Alabama or a Georgia or some of these other SEC programs, I think they get enough blowouts where he's out of the game earlier. Colorado isn't good enough on defense to blow anybody out that he's going to get rest. So if you put him on Alabama, he's not playing most of the whole game. He's only going to play both ways against the games that they need to.
Right.
Same thing with Georgia. If you put him, he wouldn't be at Kentucky or South Carolina.
Well, I think that's the best point you just made, is that it's the games in which they need to. And right now at Colorado, every game they need to.
Yes.
And that's the sucky part, is like he's putting a lot of miles on the tires, man. And like you're playing two highly athletically required positions in wide receiver and defensive back. Like, man, you need to save those legs for the league. And we know that's where you're going next year, but 100 plays is absurd. I don't think people realize how difficult that truly is. That is, and it's not just 100 snaps at practice. It's 100 snaps in a game getting blasted. I mean, he was getting smacked a couple times in that game. But to go back to your original point, Dave Aranda, or I forgot how to pronounce his name. Aranda. Sorry. This is, I'm forgetting. I'm starting to forget.
We're not good with names here. We can't pronounce names. Nico, I am Iamaleava.
And if you don't pay me, I am a leave-in. The problem is, I think he keeps his job if his calling card was not defense. Since his calling card is defense, the way they are losing is, like you said, 2 blown Hail Mary coverages. The first one off the dude's chest. The second one, you just let the guy get behind you. Like, it is absolutely the only thing you can't have happen. I mean, tackle the dude. If you think he's going to tackle him, it's a 15-yard penalty in college football. It's like, I feel for the man, but I don't think Napier's going to be the first one fired. And that's why I wanted to bring this up.
My favorite tweet I saw, I put something out about the Baylor game on Sunday. And somebody said the only thing the prevent defense does is prevent you from winning.
That's true. It really is. I think people get into it too early. And it's like, man, like, why do you only have 2 guys back? And maybe I'm forgetting the situation, but I feel like they only had 2 high safeties. And I say high safeties very literally because they were all the way at the goal line. You have 2 guys to cover 53 yards. I feel like if you're going to be prevent, go all the way. Put 3 or 4 guys back there. And maybe that's ignorant, but I think 2 guys is just, that's dumb because you leave a gap somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was the USC-Michigan game, the very last play of the game. Michigan had 3 safeties with their heels on the 5 or 10 yard line.
Right.
They had 3 safeties back there. The linebackers were playing 20 yards off the ball, and the cornerbacks were nowhere near press coverage. They were past the sticks already. So they were clearly, you're not going to get guys behind you. But that was the first play for Baylor's. How is the DB in front of the wide receiver? Like, worst case scenario, you want to be that, okay, hey, the DB is behind the wide receiver, and at least you make a tackle. Worst case scenario, he catches it, you make a tackle. You get there earlier, you get pass interference, 15 yards, but guess what?
You get to try again.
Scoring.
Right.
They didn't score. That's the main thing, is they didn't score. So we'll see. I'm not confident. Dave Aranda, that's been a pretty bad tenure other than his very initial start there when they won a Big 12 title, but has not been good the last couple of years. Daquan Finn's hurt. Sawyer Robertson played really well, rushed the ball for, I believe, around 50 yards. But you're right. Dave Aranda, it's a defensive coach. Why is the defense not a staple? Why are they not one of the best in the Big 12 defensively? They went out to try to get offensive weapons. They moved the ball decently, but defense has not been it. So we'll see. Napier could still get fired very easily. One more game, they could fire him very fast. Aranda might be another couple of weeks. Pac 12/6/7 was going to get a couple more. Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and USF were all rumored to be potential. All of them came out and said no. They all came out and said that they are staying with the American Athletic Conference. Temple reaffirmed as well. I don't know why. Nobody was asking.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere either. Don't forget me.
Literally, nobody asked if Temple was going, but Temple said we reaffirmed.
I love it. I love it.
They reaffirmed to not going to FCS. That's what they reaffirmed to.
They're the annoying kid that blows snot bubbles out of his nose when he talks, that you kind of don't want to be around you, but is around you, and you feel too bad to make him go. You kind of hope in the situation they're going to go, and they're like, nope, hey, I'm still here.
Hey, Utah State is going to the Pac-12 or Pac-6, who did lose to Temple this past weekend.
Wait a minute, that's why. That's why that's why all these guys didn't go. What do they all have in common that the other schools don't? They don't have state in their name.
Hey, I saw now that Sacramento State is being considered, which will give us 4 teams that are actual states and 4 teams that are not states that have states in the name, which would be the best divisions ever. Imagine having Sacramento State, San Diego State, Boise State, and Fresno State in a conference or division.
All in the same state. Well, I think that right there, if that's a real rumor, that tells you why. Like these teams didn't stay in the American Conference out of the goodness of their hearts. They stayed in there because of money. And if Sacramento State is an actual option, the Pac-12 is going to be a G5. It would be a G6.
It is at this point.
They're not going to get the funding that they think they're going to get. And I think that news that Memphis and Tulane and UTSA and USF, the fact that they backed out, that screams to me that the Pac-12 is not getting the funding that they thought they would, which sucks for Boise State. I was really hoping that, and Oregon State and Washington State, they really have been screwed throughout this entire thing. But I was really hoping to see Boise State in a Power 4, Power 5 conference.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I'm sure Boise State, Oregon State, Washington State are going to be in that upper echelon. UNLV is being rumored as well. UNLV has a terrible history for college football. Ignore what they're doing right now, but the last 20 years for UNLV, they've made something like 2 bowl games. It has not been a good program. Vegas should be a place that is easier to win, but it is not. Has never been. When Barry Odom leaves, inevitably he probably will leave and go to a bigger school. We'll see what happens at UNLV. Utah State, not a big name program that has done a lot. Like these programs, I'm not sure what you're going to get. The Pac conference, end up being the Pac-8, is going to get to their 8 programs. They're going to get there.
Right.
But this is 1,000% a group of 5 conference. It is technically, I think it'd make a group of 6 then, because once they officially form, there'll be a group of 6 conference. Baby. Yeah, G6. So there'll be a G6, and it's going to be what it is. It's sad for Oregon State and Washington State because they're 2 really good programs, especially Washington State's got a lot of history there. But it's just it's falling apart.
And it sucks too because Washington State and Oregon State were getting a lot of momentum in the recent years. Like, I mean, Jonathan Smith had Oregon State moving in a very, very positive direction and they were beating Oregon. I mean, they were a formidable program. And then Washington State doing the same. And like this year, look at Washington State this year.
They beat Washington. They went to double overtime with San
Jose State.
San Jose State and won 58-56.
Well, don't sleep on San Jose State. They could probably compete for that G5 spot. That G spot's going to be not. Oh, should I say that about the playoff? The playoff is a G spot. Am I allowed to say that?
We can say whatever we want.
Moving on.
All right. So a couple quarterback changes. So Oklahoma in the middle of their game opts to pull Jackson Arnold.
Understandably.
I'm blanking on their
Michael
Hawkins Jr. Jackson Arnold was just not getting it cut. I watched the beginning of this game, and it was brutally awful to watch these offenses just struggle. And then I opted to switch to a different game because I was tired of watching. It wasn't like it was great defense either. It was kind of more inept offenses because Jackson Arnold just wasn't moving the ball. Like, wasn't doing a good job of putting his offense in good positions. So I understand Jackson Arnold hasn't looked good this year. He came in, was the anointed starter, played in the bowl game, played fine in the bowl game. and has really struggled the whole season. He barely beat Houston, did not play well against Tulane. Home game, biggest game of the year against Tennessee, is not getting it done. I actually think that Brent Venables, you have to applaud him here for understanding that, okay, maybe Jackson Arnold isn't the guy. We're not moving the ball. It's time to take another look rather than just, continue to beat a dead horse and saying like, we're going to try it. We're going to keep doing it. Let's see what Michael Hawkins got. Does it hurt Jackson Arnold's, confidence if this end up not working? Maybe, but maybe Jackson Arnold also needs to take a second and come back and think that maybe he was the guy. Maybe he's not the guy.
Right. And like, I agree with that take. Because you have to think that there's this coaching staff is seeing both guys in practice. So my assumption would be based on this move in the middle of a game is that Michael Hawkins isn't that far behind Jackson Arnold.
Yes.
And if they're that neck and neck and the dude's just not performing, give the other guy a shot. Why not? And the offense did look better with Hawkins in it. Not much better, but it did look better.
I thought Michael Hawkins broke his neck at the very end of that game when, he went up and flipped and landed basically on his head. That would have put me in a coma. Like 1,000%, that would have put me in a coma.
Yeah, I think Jackson Arnold might have been maybe very, 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 very quiet, like hoping that happened too. But thankfully it didn't. I will say this too. Like one thing about Tennessee that I want to throw out there, Jake. Everybody's crowning the Tennessee defense as being some like SEC stalwart playoff defense. Like Tennessee's flipped their identity from being an offensive team to a defensive team.
Me, I'm part of that crowd.
I'm not ready to do that yet, and I know I hate the who have you played. And they have like when they're playing teams, they handle business. When they played NC State, they handle business. I don't think they gave up an offensive touchdown against NC State. I think NC State only scored on a pick six. Then you play Oklahoma, and they don't give up a touchdown until garbage time. So those are positives to me. But the negative side of that is, look what NC State and Oklahoma have done offensively to everyone else, though. And it's not that much. NC State's a better offense than Oklahoma. So that one gives me a little bit more confidence. I mean, because NC State at least went out against La Tech and West Carolina and scored over 30 points. Oklahoma couldn't even do that against Houston. So, I mean, yes, Houston is a Big 12 school, but
they scored 50 on Temple.
Yeah, that Temple talk is back. Hey, this is going
to be lots of Temple talk today.
Very, very heavy in the Temple, So we're like church guys. We're in the Temple. But I'm not quite ready to crown them. I want to see them play against Ole Miss. I want to see them play against Georgia. I think this defense is great. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I think this defense is greatly improved. I'm not ready to say the identity of this team is the defense, or excuse me, that they are one of the top defenses in the SEC. I think the identity is the defense. So I want to make sure I make that clear, because we go to the other side of the ball. Nico Iamaleava played well against Oklahoma.
Yes, he did.
That's it. He played well. I don't think he did anything crazy, but he played well. He did enough. He didn't put his team in a situation to lose. And when we talked about this last week, what did we say the difference in the game was going to be? We said the difference in the game was going to be which first-year starter makes the least amount of bonehead moves. Nico did that.
Yeah. I thought Nico could potentially be a dark horse Heisman candidate, and there's still a chance he could be. But through the first month, right now, I don't think this is the year for him. I think another year of experience. Next year, he could come out and have a monster year. But right now, he is doing exactly what Tennessee needs him to do.
Exactly.
He's being slightly more than a game manager, but he is extending plays with his legs. He's getting the ball to the playmakers. Brew McCoy had 92 yards receiving in this game. Dante Thornton had 73 yards, a 66
big touchdown. Yeah.
Big time touchdown. So he's getting the ball to the playmakers. He's getting the ball when it needs to. Tennessee is rushing the ball a lot. They're not a air raid style team right now.
Well, they're doing what they need to do with the first year starter.
Yes.
They're doing exactly what you should do with the first year starter. Like, that's what all these teams get wrong, or a lot of these fans get wrong when they're watching these offenses, these programs with the first year starter, and you're expecting the world to be lit on fire. That's not realistic. It's just not. It doesn't happen.
These guys need more time. They need actual reps. They need competitive reps. Getting reps against backups, getting it in garbage time, understand it. Sometimes it helps, but when the game is on the line, when you're out there, the second drive of the game, you need to move that ball down the field. There's more pressure. You're playing on a hostile environment. You can't replicate that no matter how much you want to try.
Right. And then the other coach that made a quarterback move, I disagreed with how he handled this completely. And I'm talking about Hugh Freeze. I understand what you're doing. And like at the end of all of his quotes, he did say, we have to coach them better. That's great. As a head coach who's been in this game for a long time, what the media is going to write up when you say we need a quarterback who's not going to throw it to the other team. And essentially alluded to the fact, he's alluded to the fact all summer and then all coming into this year that we don't have the guy at quarterback, and we did not have the guy at quarterback coming in. So it's like, what are you saying to your team when you're like, yep, this roster just ain't it. So I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want with these quarterbacks, say what I want about these quarterbacks. If you care about the quarterback as a person, you're not bashing them in front of the media, because at this point, if you know that those aren't the guys that you're going to take the next couple of years, Hank Brown being a younger guy, Peyton Thorne not, you're not going to bash them because you want them to be able to get to go to another situation. And now schools are going to be like, whoa, if he's saying that about them out loud, I don't want Hank Brown to come over here,
And also, if you're a quarterback in the transfer portal or a quarterback that's, potentially going to be looking at Auburn, or if you make a bad play, is your coach just going to throw you under the bus? Like, are you going to have a short leash? Is your coach just not going to care about you and try to make you better? Like, I understand that you want better quarterback play, but the responsibility always falls on the coach.
Absolutely.
Putting them in the right position, making them better players. Obviously, there's accountability on players. Like, they need to play up to their standards. Like, you have expectations, and you want them to be doing their part as well. They've got to be studying film. They've got to be getting the reps in. They've got to be doing work when it's not just practice as well. But watching this happen, Peyton Thorne's gone after the year. He's not going to play in the NFL. He's just done playing football after this year. But Hank Brown is a redshirt freshman, and you've got a long way to go yet in this season. Hank Brown could turn it around. And I think Peyton Thorne gave him great advice. And I know it got beat up a little bit by Peyton Thorne saying he's going to tell him to stay off his phone. People were saying, like, literally just thinking about, like, sit on his phone. No, it's the hate that comes from the fan base.
Stay away from the social media.
Staying off the social media. And someone brought up this point that Dabo used to tell players no social media.
Right.
And part of it is because of this. Because there's insane fans that are going to tweet death threats, that are going to tell players how much they suck, and it's going to kill their confidence because, yes, they are 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They are influenced very easily by things they read on the internet.
Absolutely.
And
the other way around, too. Like, there's guys gassing you up, and it's like, you haven't even done anything yet. Like, to go back to Clemson's point, at the beginning, after the Georgia game, people wanted to ship Cade off the freaking Alcatraz.
Ethiopia.
Yeah, they wanted to send him to Alcatraz. Now they're talking about, hey, he might not come back next year. He might be a first-round draft pick. What are we saying, people? Obviously, the normal's in the middle, but like, this is why like Dabo is so strict with the social media, is because literally within 2 weeks, people went from saying he should be off of this team to he's going to be a first-round draft pick. Like, how ignorant are we, people?
We need to level out here. He's playing well, but like, hey, he's not the number one pick. Hey, let's see how the rest of the season goes. We've got a long way to go. Let's figure this out. Both ways are high and both ways are low. You don't want to put guys too far up that maybe like, hey, let's see what happens here. You played a couple of good teams, but like, you don't want the ego getting too high, and you also don't want to be tearing them down too low either.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But then, like, to watch Hugh Freeze, like the guy who you're trusting your career to throw you under the bus in that way to the media, you can say that behind closed doors. You don't say that to the media. I mean, I don't know. I just think that's awful. And to your point, yeah, the transfer come in. Why would I want to go play for a guy who calls himself a quarterback guru to throw me under the bus, and then at the end say we have to coach something better? Maybe I would take it a little bit different if he says, you know what, hey, first off, it's on me. Second, I need to do a better job of getting these guys prepared, because he's putting all the pressure, all the ownership on the quarterbacks, and then saying we have to coach them better. No one's listening to that crap at the end. You're putting it all on them.
Yeah, let's move on to the biggest game from last weekend. Michigan decides that the forward pass is pointless and we don't need to run the forward pass anymore. Let's set the game back 100 years. And USC believes that they only lost because of officiating. Oh boy. What a game. What a game.
USC, you know why you lost. It has nothing to do with officiating. It has
because
nothing
of
to do
a
with blowing
holding
holds.
call when Khalil Mullins went for 60 yards.
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened. USC, you are a lot better off in the Big Ten than we thought you were. You are. Michigan, you're a lot better off this year than we thought you were too. However, both things can be true. However, Michigan has, and for a while, been able to build their trenches and establish a run-first identity. They not only went to that to the nth degree against USC because it worked. They're not going. How many times did they throw the ball? 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, they threw the ball 13 times in the entire game. There's a reason for that. That's because they said our guys are bigger and stronger than your guys, and we will wear your tail down. And what happened? What happened? They wore them down. You can blame officiating on a key play. I understand. I would be mad too. However, you have to look at your roster and see we cannot sustain against the run for an entire game. You can't. So when you go and you play another team that plays similarly to Michigan, there's not that many teams out there anymore. But if you play at Penn State, which they are, that's what you're going to get. And you know what? They might take the ball out of Drew Aller's hands and say, "Here, Allen. Here, Singleton. Demolish them.
Yep.
They can't stop you." So you know, if you want to blame the refs, go ahead. That might make you feel better. But if you want to be realistic, you need to find a way to stop the run consistently.
There were 3 key plays in this game that one was for USC, but could have been a major impact. First key play, obviously the Khalil Mullins 60+ yard run. Less than 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they're starting on their own, 25, 30 yard line. They run the ball a couple times. We have not seen Alex Orji throwing the ball at all that game. And they know that they're going to continue to try to run the ball and get into a position where they don't have to let him throw the ball. And they still let Mullins go right up the middle and almost scored on that play. In hindsight, maybe they should have let him score because then they would have at least had enough time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number 2 was Will Johnson just stepping in front of that pass and catching it like it was meant for him and running it straight into the end zone.
Yep.
Third was the weird fumble that was recovered by the Michigan defensive lineman. I forget if it was Mason Graham or Kenneth Grant.
It was Kendrick Grant.
Yeah. And then Woody Marks making an insane play to take the ball back.
That was awesome.
Because he stripped the ball, and that's why we don't let defensive linemen run with footballs, because this man is not used to holding a football because Woody Marks took it so easily. It's like he took a handoff from him.
Yeah.
Because Kenneth Grant was not used to holding a football, did not tuck it away very well, and Woody Marks just came in and swept it and took it back. But the first 2 plays are the key ones there. If USC does not allow either of those to happen, they win this game.
Right. And like, to make matters worse for Michigan's passing game, Loveland was out. It's like that was their passing game. And I believe their leading receiver had 3 catches for 16 yards. Am I right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, they only had 32 yards, so
it was absolutely, I mean, like, great job. It looks like your pass defense is great, but honestly, that doesn't tell the story of the game.
The military guys are looking at Michigan and saying, why can't you throw the ball?
Yeah. Army has a passing game issue, you know. The other part of that is Miller Moss threw the ball 53 times. 53 times. So from a Michigan side, like, they're throwing the ball that many times because they can. And now, he didn't throw for 300 yards, which is also crazy. If you throw the ball 53 times and you don't have over 300 yards, chances are you're throwing a lot of checkdowns, and that is your running game because you probably can't establish the run. I think Will Johnson ended up getting hurt in this game.
Yeah, they said that he was okay, but yeah, he got hurt towards I think it was the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It sounded pretty bad because he was going for x-rays and the parents were brought down And usually when your parents are brought down, it's not very good. It usually means there's pretty bad news. But they ended up saying that he's going to be okay. It sounds like that he may play this weekend. I also could see them sitting him out. Playing Minnesota, they should win this weekend, but you never know with this team. We'll see what happens. But your point, USC found a way to throw the ball. They found a way. You cannot run the ball up the middle on Michigan. Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham are the best defensive tackle combo in the country. Both are probably going to be first-round picks heading into next year. And USC found that out. USC is not a physical running team.
No.
I'll be interested to see. They don't play Penn State this year, and I'd really love to see the matchup of Penn State.
I could have sworn that. Oh, no, Michigan doesn't play Penn State.
Yeah, Michigan does not play Penn State. I would love to see Michigan's defensive line go against Penn State's rushing attack this year.
Yeah.
I'd also love to see if Michigan can just run the ball for 38 straight plays again, because that was kind of funny last year. Just everybody knew that they were running the ball, and they still didn't stop the run. But, yeah, we'll see. Michigan kind of works their way back into a playoff conversation really early, obviously. But that win against USC was much needed, especially with a new starting quarterback. Alex Orji throws for 32 yards. He's going to have to throw for more eventually this year. They have Oregon at some point. Oregon's going to be able to score points on them. Oregon's going to throw the ball. They're not going to run up the middle. They're going to run to the boundary. They're going to try to get the ball in space. So the defensive tackles will be a factor, but Oregon's going to try to get the ball out in space, out to the boundary, which obviously the defensive tackles aren't going to be there.
I think if Michigan makes the playoffs, whoever their opponent is going to be licking their chops. There will be, they're a very single-dimensional offense. You just have to score 21 points, should be, and be able to beat them unless you're USC and you can't stop the run.
That is true. All right. Want to jump over to Nebraska. Nebraska just seems to continue to find ways to make their fans' hearts hurt even more and more and more. They
still sell out.
They still sell out, and they lose another game by one score. Another game by one score.
How many is that now? What is the number? I thought I saw it.
It's a lot. It's double digits. It's in the teens. It's heartbreaking. I don't know how Nebraska fans put it up with every week. The thing is, Dylan Raiola looks like a pretty good quarterback. Obviously, he's a freshman, but I'm in on Dylan Raiola.
I will say that the freshman moment, he did have a freshman moment, and that was
the whole overtime.
Yeah, yes. I'm like, what are you doing? I think he just malfunctioned. I don't know. He lost his Patrick Mahomes juice. I don't know what happened. But yeah, throughout the game, he was looking pretty good. So, I was like, wow, this cat can play. But then but the majority of my mind was which I don't have much space in my mind, so this isn't much, was like, man, Illinois is better than I thought they were. And
that is 1,000% a fact.
And they could do whatever they wanted to on offense. Luke Altmaier looked great.
Luke Altmaier looked terrible last year, and this year he's looking like a pretty good quarterback.
Right, Hugh Freeze. Maybe you don't bash your quarterback and they can improve. Look at Caleb Klubnik right now. It's only been 3 games, but look at some of these guys who have improved vastly. Look at Bo Nix. Bo Nix's career should tell all these freaking idiots that it doesn't always take 1 or 2 years. So I looked at this game and I'm like, Illinois can compete, and then I go straight to the number that we're going to talk about later with Illinois and Penn State, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
The Illinois game, this was infuriating watching overtime as, an innocent bystander over here, because they just kept moving backwards and further backwards and further backwards. And I didn't even understand how they were on their own side of the field in overtime, because
holding call 2 sacks and a fumble.
There's a point where it was 3rd and 42 in overtime. They were at the Illinois 40. They were at their own. Where they start this? They were at their own 43-yard line.
Yeah,
they were at their own 43-yard line and had to make it to the 15-yard line. Just an absolutely. 3rd and 42. You're begging for a pass interference call. You're begging for an automatic first down in there somewhere. And obviously, it ends with 4th and 29, and Dylan Raiola gets sacked for 10 yards to go back to his own side of the field. So,
right.
I'm still in on Nebraska. I don't think that they're going to be a top 25 team. There's no reason they shouldn't be in a bowl game, though. But Illinois impressed me. Luke Altmaier, excited to see what he does against Penn State this weekend. Penn State lost one of their starting safeties, so that could open up something in the defensive game. Yeah. Penn State played Kent State this weekend, which I take every bit of that with a grain of salt. Kent State, I think, is the worst team in college football right now. They have been shut out twice already this year, and they've only played 4 games.
Worse than Temple?
Yeah, Temple has a win.
Okay.
Temple beat a Pac-6 team, Pac-7 team.
Who they beat?
Utah State.
Oh, Utah State. Yeah, so good job. That's a powerful victory.
They beat a power team. So I'm excited to see what Illinois does this weekend. Texas A&M, LSU, and Mizzou all struggle. Which one concerns you the most?
Missouri.
And they all struggled against bad teams.
Missouri, and it's Missouri by a landslide. So I think Texas A&M lost all of their playoff hopes after losing to Notre Dame, and maybe that's extreme for me to say. But the way they've looked throughout the year, I'm just not sold on them. Yeah, they thumped Florida pretty good, but like other than that, they haven't looked great. They've just really struggled. And obviously, when you struggle against Bowling Green, which Penn State did too, so maybe Bowling Green's just a good team. But Texas A&M was supposed to be a contender in the SEC. So I kind of lost a little bit of hope on them after the Notre Dame game. LSU lose to USC, should have lost to South Carolina. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that LSU team. I didn't have high expectations for them coming into this year anyway. I was pretty down on them coming into the year. But Missouri was supposed to have this high-flying score 4,000 points on you a game offense and then a defense that could just do enough to get by, but had been improved. That's all we had heard, is that the defense had improved. I didn't see that. What I saw was Vanderbilt choke the game away, because this was Vanderbilt's game to win, or at least stay into, and they miss a 30-yard field goal in overtime, to continue the game. So Missouri escaped from freaking Boston College. That game was close. And then they escape from Vanderbilt. And those are two historically bottom feeders of their conferences. So if you're a Missouri fan, I would be more afraid that my offense is only scoring 27 points against Vanderbilt than I would that my defense is struggling. I mean, we talk about this all throughout the SEC preview, that you have Luther Burden, you have the Mookie guy, you have all these great receivers, and you have Brady Cook that's back. Like, you should be demolishing people, and they're not scoring points like we thought they would, Jake.
Yeah. See, the biggest one for me right now, honestly, I am concerned about LSU. This UCLA team is not good. UCLA lost by like 30 points to Indiana.
My Hoosiers. Don't you sleep on my Hoosiers.
They were tied at halftime with UCLA. They were only up 7 going into the fourth quarter. Ethan Garbers throws for 281 yards. Like, this was a incredibly close game, and UCLA is probably going to be one of the bottom 3 Big Ten teams this year. They're not a very good team. It's going to be bad. LSU struggled against, UCLA. They struggled against South Carolina. This week they have South Alabama. Watch out for the Jaguars this week. Watch out for them. This is going to be closer than what you think. This could be an intriguing night game. The spread's at 22 points right now, but I expect this is going to be way closer.
That is easy. Did Justin put this on his G5 picks yet? Because if he hasn't, it's going to be on there, because 22 points for that offense, for South Alabama's offense, that's easy money. Easy money.
The team almost scored 100 points this year. Granted, they played a terrible squad, but South Alabama is going to be able to move the ball.
And look what they did to App State. They moved the ball on everybody.
Yeah, which is ironic because they lost to Ohio University and North Texas start the year. They lost their first 2 games, but the last 2 games they have scored a total of like 130 points or something like that. Actually, no, it's like 100 and almost 150 points.
That's unbelievable.
Which is absolutely absurd. So I think this game will be closer, but LSU concerns me. I think that upcoming this year, like, they still have Ole Miss, they still have Alabama, they still have Texas A&M, they still have Oklahoma, they play Vanderbilt, they play Florida. There's no easy games in here. I think they could end up losing 3 more games. I think 8-4 is realistic for Brian Kelly, and that's not going to make the LSU fan base very happy.
Yeah, and I think I had them at 7-5. I'm just not high on this team. I had South Carolina, coming into this year, I had South Carolina beating them. I thought they were going to take a huge step back, and especially losing Harold Perkins for the year.
Yeah, Perkins is done for the year now.
But no offense to Harold Perkins, I don't want to dance on his grave right now, but like the defense wasn't doing anything with him anyway. I mean,
They weren't. He's
he
not
had
being utilized correctly.
right. He had a 1.5 tackles for loss in 4 games. Like it's not like he's out there game changing. I mean, so yes, it's a big loss. Like he is a very uber talented player, but that defense is going to suck with him or without him.
Would you like to go on a rant about Clemson real quick?
Jake, would I like to go on a rant? So all you box score peepers out there who want to say that this game against NC State, how does Clemson's defense let up 35? You obviously didn't watch the game because 21 points to score in the fourth quarter when our third string guys are in there. Clemson played 96 people on Saturday, which is absurd, by the way, because you only need 22 to play on offense and defense. So 96 people played. That's a lot of backups. They got a lot of good reps, and this was the recipe for Dabo's great teams back in the day. Less than a decade ago, because we would get so far ahead of these teams, and then you're playing your third, your second, your fourth string guys against NC State, against Wake Forest, against other Power 4 conference players and talent that still have their ones in most of the time. So being able to get this experience, I mean, we interviewed Justin Falcinelli during the offseason, and what did he talk about? He talked about playing in some meaningless snaps, quote unquote, and having a bad snap here and there. And say, hey, it's not the end of the world. You're able to make those mistakes without the pressure. And then that way you get to figure out what to do when it is time and there is pressure in the game. So I'm very excited about that. I'm not ready to go on a rant. I want to see us do it again because you look at App State, they're struggling now. You look at NC State, they're not having the greatest year. Stanford's got some momentum going with them, but they rank 129th in pass defense. So you'd hope you'd handle business against them. I got Louisville circled. I've got Florida State circled because regardless of what we want to say about Florida State, their defense is still a decent defense, and they've started to step up a little bit. They finally got a victory. They beat Cal. They beat the Calgorithm. So I'm not ready to give Clemson their flowers yet. I came into the season thinking this was a 12-0 to an 11-1 team, and I thought 10-2 was their basement. So I haven't changed on that, and I'm very, very pleased with what the offense is doing. And I put a tweet out there, a little clip, a little video of how that felt to see an offense move this way. So I'll tell you, I'll be in Death Valley this weekend. I will let you know what I think when I put my moose receptacles on them this weekend.
Classic ACC matchup, Clemson versus Stanford.
Who could forget last time we played them, Jake? Do you remember?
No.
1986. We beat them 27-21 in the Gator Bowl. Who could forget?
Logically, I remember it was before I was born. Wasn't even close yet. Before my parents were even married, so I wasn't even thought of yet.
Yeah, you were a drunken glaze in your daddy's eye.
Let's jump into this weekend. Obviously, we got to start with the big game. Georgia will travel to Alabama this weekend. What is the biggest key for you when Georgia travels to Tuscaloosa?
Oh, I think the biggest key in the game is who can run the ball. And I want to do a blind resume game with you, Jake, real quick. Are you ready? You ready for a little blind resume?
Yep.
So I want you. I'm gonna name the two teams and what they're ranked in each category, and you guess which one is which. Okay.
Okay.
So rushing offense, 84th ranked, 145.7 yards per game and 5.4 yards per carry is the first team. 19th ranked, 238 yards per game and 5.8 yards per carry. Which one is which?
I mean, I feel like the one ranked 19th is Alabama. But
that is correct. All right. You are 1 for 1. All right. Defense. Rush defense. 68th in the country, 132 yards given up per game and 3.48 yards per carry given up. The other one, 42nd in the nation, 111 yards per game given up and 3.07 yards per carry. Which one is which?
I think that second one's Georgia.
Second one's Georgia. Man, 2 for 2. You're killing it. It's like you're
crushing it.
All right. This is where it's going to get difficult. Passing offense. 48th in the nation, 256.7 yards per game and 8.19 yards per attempt. And the other one is 69th in the nation. Nice. Very 228 nice. Yards per game and 10.39 yards per attempt. Who is who?
Is that second one Georgia too?
Second one's Alabama. All I think is Ryan Williams just breaking free a couple of times. And then the last one. So you're 2 for 3. You're still a Hall of Famer in the major leagues. 7th in the country on pass defense. 115.7 yards per game allowed and 6.2 yards per attempt versus 1st in the country, 91.3 yards per game and 7.41 yards per attempt.
These pass defenses are 1st and 7th.
1st and 7th.
I'm going to say the 1st is Georgia.
First is Georgia. Now you got to think Clemson only threw for like 90 yards against Georgia, and then they played Kentucky, who Brock Vandagriff doesn't know how to throw a football.
Yeah, I thought that the Brock Vandagriff one definitely pulled them down because he threw for like some ungodly low number.
So I think some of these ranks are going to change vastly. I don't believe in the pass defense ranks. I think Georgia has one of the best pass defenses. I don't think 91 yards per game is sustainable. Especially
shockingly,
against this Alabama team. But to come to that, the thing I'm looking for is the defense. I think both of these offenses are similar in the sense that they're methodical, they're led by veterans, and that they don't have trouble moving the ball. And they both have really good true freshmen that help them out. Nate Frazier for Georgia, the running back, and Ryan Williams for Alabama, the wide receiver. So I trust the offenses. I want to see what these defenses do against those offenses because neither one of these defenses have really been challenged by a formidable offense yet. So I'm very curious to see what happens and which defensive ranks are realistic and which ones aren't. Which ones are imposters.
See, for me, I think this is going to come down to Alabama's skill players, and that sounds a little interesting, but Jam Miller and Justice Haynes and Ryan Williams have been incredible for Alabama so far, but they have not played a defense like Georgia. They played Wisconsin, who is a respectable team. It's not like they just played a bunch of nobodies or a bunch of cupcake teams. Playing Wisconsin in Wisconsin is a legitimate game, and I'll give you to it, and they blew them out. But Wisconsin is not the same Wisconsin defense from 4, 5, 6 years ago that was mauling teams that had TJ Watt and guys like that on defense. This Wisconsin defense is a little bit different. They're in a rebuild right now with Luke Fickell. I want to see what these guys do. Ryan Williams is playing in his first massive game. It's a home game. It's going to be loud. Not when he's on offense. When on offense, he'll probably be quiet. But it's a massive matchup. Probably the best cornerbacks he's going to play all year. And guys like Jam Miller and Justice Hayes are going to have to help carry the load. Jalen Milroe, we know what he can do. Jalen Milroe is explosive with his legs. He has not thrown an interception yet this year. He's throwing for almost 70% completion right now. I want to see these Alabama skill players get open, get in space, and help out this team because they're going to need to score points. I think this is low scoring. I do think this is a pretty low scoring game, but you've got to find a way to get in the end zone.
Absolutely.
You've got to find a way, and you've got inexperienced guys up here. I mean, Ryan Williams was a true freshman. I'm pretty sure, I think we talked about it. He reclassified, should be in high school right now.
Right.
And he's leading Alabama in receiving. He's obviously a stud, but this is a massive moment. Is there going to be a freshman moment in this game? Is he going to be able to get separation against these Georgia defensive backs? Or are we going to see a similar style game where, Alabama just runs the ball constantly, how Michigan did against USC?
Right, and I think how Georgia's going to play him, they're going to play him like they would play any other freshman wide receiver. They're going to get up in his face. They're going to because he's fast. Fast is fast, whether it's high school, college, NFL. Fast is fast. Ryan Williams is freaking fast. However, he has not been in the weight room for very long at Alabama, so at a collegiate level. So what these guys are going to do, they're going to get up in his face and jam him, and they're going to see if he can get off the ball. And I think that's going to be the biggest test. Can Ryan Williams get off the ball? Can he get off of these older veteran defensive backs that Georgia has? And I think he will. He seems very savvy. I don't know. Watching him, I don't just see a freshman who burns by people. I see a guy who's a savvy route runner. I see a guy who has some moves in his bag that can get around guys. I mean, he plays like a veteran, Jake. So very impressed with him. I think Alabama wins this game, and I think it's because I like their skill position players more than I like Georgia's skill position players. And quite honestly, I think if you put Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck and you did a blind resume against them, they're not that different when it comes to passing this year. And what Jalen Milroe can bring with his legs adds such a huge proponent to the game that I think it's just going to put Georgia on their heels too often. And I think Alabama's able to eat this one out.
I think that is incredibly possible. Carson Beck's going to have to step up in this game. He's going to have to make some throws. I'll be interested to see how the Alabama defense plays because they looked susceptible to the pass when Tyler Van Dyke was in there against Wisconsin. And Van Dyke was moving the ball decently in that first quarter. So if Carson Beck can find success, especially between the 20s, like they're going to leave it to the run game when they start getting down deep in the territory. So Carson Beck's job is to move it between the 20s, and then hopefully the running backs can take over from there.
Right.
And hopefully they avoid any shot plays. Both defenses need to avoid any shot plays. Anything that can change momentum, you need to have the teams methodically move down the field and try to stop them because you don't want a momentum changing play like that.
Right.
We've got a weird game for our second one we're previewing here. Louisville versus Notre Dame. Louisville really hasn't been tested other than a game against Georgia Tech. They played Austin Peay and Jacksonville State. Notre Dame obviously lost to Northern Illinois earlier this year and has looked a little bit better, I guess, the last 2 weeks. They beat up on Purdue, who is also a terrible Big Ten team. They beat up on Miami, Ohio, who is not a great MAC team. I guess they're an okay MAC team. And is technically the 15th or 16th ranked team, although I really believe both these teams are overrated right now.
I agree, but I will say I was more impressed with Louisville's win over Georgia Tech than I was with Notre Dame's win over Texas A&M. And the reason I say that is because Georgia Tech was already tested coming into that game. They had already played Florida State. They had already played Syracuse at Syracuse. I mean, the Florida State game was an away game. Obviously, it was in Ireland. And I thought Brent Key had his guys looking really good. I picked Georgia Tech to win that game outright because I wasn't sold on Louisville. Jake, Louisville has the 18th ranked rush defense. And what does Notre Dame only do? It seems they just had their first passing touchdown last weekend against Miami of Ohio.
Hey, they're a passing team now. They threw a passing touchdown.
Right. That's unbelievable. So, like, I think, and I was high on Louisville's defensive line coming into this, and obviously they proved me. I questioned them a little bit with that Georgia Tech game. They proved me wrong completely and made me go back to my original belief of this is a good defensive line that has two guys that are going to play in the NFL. So I think that defensive line is going to give Notre Dame hell. And where is this game being played?
It is in South Bend.
Okay, that's a big plus for Notre Dame. But what happened when Notre Dame played Louisville last year?
Jawar Jordan ran all over them.
Right. So they got mollywopped. And I think this Louisville team is actually better than last year's Louisville team. Even though Louisville made it to the ACC championship, I thought that roster was very flawed. They like you said last year when you picked them to do that, they had a very easy schedule. So I think the difference in this game is going to come down to can Riley Leonard throw the football? Because I think they're going to be getting put into a lot of third and long situations, and he's going to have to air it out. So we'll see. Can Bo Collins do something? Can Jaden Greathouse do something? Can Mitchell Evans get healthy? I was about to go back to Michael Meyer. Can Mitchell Evans finally get healthy and bring back that tight end threat? So I don't know. I think Louisville wins this game pretty easily.
I'm not sold on that. Louisville struggled to run the ball against Georgia Tech. They only finished with 57 yards, 2.1 yards per carry. Tyler Shuck has been around for a while. It's his first year starting at Louisville. I don't know what you're going to get. Notre Dame still's got a very good defense. They've got a very good pass defense. And if Louisville is not able to run the ball and has to rely on the passing game, I'm not sure Tyler Shuck's the guy that you want back there passing the ball.
That's true.
I'm not sure he's the guy. If this gets into a defensive matchup, I like my odds with Notre Dame here. I like Benjamin Morrison there on the outside. I think that Notre Dame can muster up enough offense with guys like Jeremiah Love. I believe that's his first name.
Yep.
I believe guys like Jeremiah Love could muster up enough offense there to get the team into field position, make enough plays. Riley Leonard, obviously, we see what he is. He's an average quarterback. He is not in a great system that feeds his success. He is a mobile quarterback that struggles with accuracy. He's always struggled with accuracy. He struggled with accuracy at Duke. That wasn't going to suddenly be fixed by him being on a different program, especially one that struggled with, quarterbacks in the past. Sam Hartman had come in with 70,000 years of experience, so they didn't have to develop him at all. Riley Leonard should be developed in his fourth year. But if this is a defensive matchup, I like my odds with Notre Dame here because they're going to be able to shut down the pass. I'm not confident Louisville will be able to run the ball. I have more confidence in Notre Dame being able to run the ball consistently, even if the rushing defense for Louisville tends to be pretty good. So that's where I'm sitting right now. This game confuses me completely. I don't think either team is a top 20 team. I think they're both actually not top 20 teams. Tyler Shuck is on his third school. He started at Oregon, then went to Texas Tech and could never stay healthy. And that is still a concern of mine. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm not keen in on this game. This is not one that I'm like dying to watch this weekend. There are plenty of other games, but it's a ranked versus ranked matchup, so we had to talk about it. Our final one that we're going to talk about here is the unofficial whiteout because Penn State can't call it an official whiteout because we're allowed to have one official whiteout because lawyers suck. That's why. Because apparently they're only allowed to have one because of the Phoenix Coyotes, which are now the Utah Hockey Club, because they were the Winnipeg Jets. I don't understand it all. If you really want to go look, I know somebody put it out there. It's stupid. It's just call it a whiteout. It's a whiteout. Here's my hot take. Here's my hot take for this.
Here it is.
Penn State should not force a whiteout every single year if the circumstances don't allow it. Mm-hmm. If their home slate is just terrible teams and it's going to be a noon game, don't force a whiteout. But maybe there's years where they have 2 or 3 because they get a late afternoon game against Ohio State and they get an afternoon game against Oregon and they get 2 really good programs in there. Then yeah, have 2 whiteouts. Make it for the circumstances that the team are playing rather than forcing it because they're playing Washington as the whiteout this year. Washington is not going to be a good program. They're skipping Ohio State because it's assumed to be a noon game because of big noon kickoff. You have a ranked team, an Illinois team who a couple years ago you went to 9 overtimes with. This is an ideal situation to call it out on Monday saying, yep, this is the whiteout. All you got to do is, if you're Penn State, is have the shirts ready. You don't have to sell them ahead of time. You know you're probably going to have one. Almost certainly every year you're going to have one. You have them ready. You have them ready to go. Boom. Sunday it's announced. It's whiteout. It's happening. You know how many shirts you're going to sell when you find out that it's the whiteout? That's how this stuff started. Joe Paterno said, we need a whiteout for that game. And guess what? Everybody wore white. They didn't need whiteout shirts. They didn't need the official apparel. But they all wore white because it's one of their colors. I'm getting fired up. But they don't need to force it every year.
I agree.
They don't need to force it every year if it doesn't make sense. But maybe there's a year where they have 2. Maybe there's a year they even have 3 because they have a prime non-conference opponent at home. And they've got an Ohio State or they got a Michigan, they got a USC, they got an Oregon. There's enough big teams that are going to come through State College that you can make it so it happens every year. But if the situation is not right, don't force it.
Yeah, and let me throw another potato in that pot, Jake. I think a whiteout should only be night games.
It should be.
I don't think a whiteout should be a noon game.
And the TV contracts ruined that. The TV contracts ruined it.
You can't tell me that a noon whiteout hits the same as night whiteout when that place gets electric and the fireworks are going off and that weird looking Nittany Lion comes running out in the field. That is the creepiest looking mascot on the planet. The creepiest. Why have they not updated his look?
Dude, Clemson's tiger looks like it just did edibles.
Which is awesome. I mean, he's a model. Well, I mean, what do you want him to do? He's a model.
I think you're right there. The TV contracts ruined it. I've been to multiple whiteouts. It's an awesome atmosphere. It's so loud. I would highly recommend anybody go to it, especially if you ever get a chance. I'm sure it's going to be loud. They're calling it for whiteout conditions. So if you get a chance, if you're in the area, go to it. It's going to be an awesome game.
You heard it here first. Penn State Jake right there. Big Penn State Penn State fan right here.
Something like that. But we talked about Illinois already this year. We are talking about Illinois already today. They faced against Nebraska. They played well. They're a large underdog in this game. What do you think it would take for Illinois to actually be able to pull the upset?
If they can stop the run, if they can make Drew Aller win this game. Drew Aller has improved, but if you can, the running game is going to be Penn State's bread and butter. We knew that coming into this year, regardless of how Drew Aller played. They have two phenomenal running backs. If Illinois can put pressure on those two guys and put them in long situations, and it's not even a Drew Aller thing. I don't trust Penn State's receivers that much. I think if Illinois can put them in third and long situations and put some pressure on Drew Aller, I think they can win this game. And I don't know. This is going to be a funky game. I can already feel it. It's going to be one of the funkiest games of the year.
Yeah, they rely heavily on their tight end, Tyler Warren. He's one of the better tight ends in the country, one of the better tight ends in the Big Ten for sure. But Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. Nick Singleton is having himself a year already. He's already got 300 yards, averaging 8.5 yards a carry. Now, take it with a grain of salt because some of these yards have come against some pretty terrible teams. But they played West Virginia. They beat down on West Virginia, beat them pretty good. But I don't take anything you did against Kent State or their other. They played Bowling Green, Bowling Green is looking like they're probably a top half of the MAC conference team. They gave Texas A&M all they could handle as well. So I think that you're right. The running game is going to be crucial. If Drew Aller has to go back there and throw the ball 35 times in a game, I don't think that's a recipe for success. I think Drew Aller needs to be between 20 and 25 pass attempts a game. That doesn't mean that I don't trust him, but I think the style of play that Penn State wants to go for is running the ball 60 to 70% of the time and throwing the ball when needed. Drew Aller might be involved in that rushing attack. Drew Aller can move. He's mobile. They can move him around in the pocket. They can get him to run the ball. But I do not believe that if he's throwing the ball more than, 50, if he's throwing the ball more than 50% of the time, it's a bad position for Penn State. We saw last year when they played Ohio State, he threw the ball 42 times against Ohio State last year, only completed 18. Granted, a year ago, he's gotten better, but still, we saw when he threw the ball for 40 times, it was not good. They didn't rely on the running game.
There was a lot of drops in that game too, but another thing I want Tom Allen to make sure that defense wakes up. I think they were kind of caught sleepwalking against Bowling Green. So I really want them to have a prove it game. If Penn State's defense comes out and does what they're capable of doing, and like you said, I think you mentioned this earlier, one of their safeties is out, so that's going to stink. But I trust Penn State's defense. I love Penn State's defense. I always have. I think they would be able to handle Illinois, but we'll find out. Crazy things have happened. Also, speaking of crazy things, Jake, just to derail you a little bit, the Braves just won, so we're one step closer to that wild card.
I got that notification. Big Braves fans. Somewhat baseball podcast, not actually a baseball podcast.
Officially seem heads.
One game back. Hopefully the Diamondbacks lose and they can be tied. But I've also written baseball playoffs out of my mind because this team is so injured.
Yeah, everybody's hurt. Austin Riley just got announced to be out for the year.
Anyways, time to move on. If you're ready to check out Week 5 action, you need to check out Underdog. It is the perfect way to draft your team, make your pick'em entries. We've been using it all season long. William hit on both his picks last week. I shouldn't even look if I hit on both of mine, I'll be honest.
I've been making some money. I'm 2 weeks in a row. So if you've been following me, you've been making some money. You've been making 3 times what you've put in.
I'm looking back on mine to see. Alex Orji did not rush for more than 43 yards.
That's crazy.
He actually might have got really close on that. Now that I think about it, he was like really close to that number because I think he finished with about 70 something total yards. And let's see, 43. It was actually 43.
God, and we call that a lock.
And he was 43 and a half.
Yeah.
43 and a half.
God.
I did not even pay attention to Iowa, so let's see what Luke Lachey did for me last week. I really need to get on this earlier. Luke Lachey, 9 yards. 3 catches for 9 yards. Are you kidding me? You had 3 catches for 9 yards.
So
with a long of 6. He went.
Oh, God.
That means the other 2 catches combined for 3 yards.
Oh, man, Jake.
Were they running
down
tight
bad.
end screens?
You're down bad.
Yeah, so that was a rough week. All right. You
so
go because
fade Jake, follow me.
Yeah, fade me.
So Abu Sama III for Iowa State has been one of my favorite running backs. Was one of my favorite running backs coming into this year. I was really excited about the Iowa State Cyclones, one of my walk-on teams. But he's kind of underperformed. He hasn't even had a 100-yard game yet. I think this is the game that he gets to do that. So I'm going Abu Sama III with higher than 75.5 rushing yards and receiving yards combined. They're playing against Houston, who has the 55th ranked rush defense. Houston, I don't think, is that good. And I think this is a game where they can get Abu Sama III going and not have to rely on Rocco Beck throwing the ball as many times as he has to this year. So look for Abu Sama III. You'll always notice with me, I don't ever go lower. I just feel dirty. I want to pull for some offense. I want to see some guys
You should be
move.
picking kickers. I've done well when I pick kickers.
Jake has picked lowers and he has picked kickers. You want some like crazy, like sicko picks? Follow Jake. Another thing, I'm breaking a rule of mine with this second pick, and I justified it with myself because I'm going to be there. So I have one rule that turns into 2, and this is some words of wisdom from the sage Beans, my buddy Beans. And let me tell you what he said. This is really wise words. Write this down. You got your pen and paper, Jake? Write this down. Never bet for your team, or never bet on your team. Never bet against your rival. You will always lose. And it's so wise. It's so wise. But Brother Beans, I'm gonna have to go against you this week. I'm going to ride that hype train that is Cade Klubnik right now, especially since they're going against Stanford, who's given up. Who has the 129th ranked pass defense. So you want to talk about like, hey, it's only been 3 weeks and some teams haven't played anybody. You can't really equate that to things. 129th is bad no matter how you look at it. So if Cade Klubnik's going to throw for 300 yards, this would be the game to do it. All he has to do is throw for more or higher than 250.5 yards against this team. Now, the one thing he's got going against him I'm a little worried about is there's a little hurricane coming through South Carolina, and it's supposed to go right through Clemson Thursday and Friday. If we get some of that precipitation, you like that big word right there, SAT word right there, precipitation. If we get some of that on Saturday, that might hurt his chances. I don't think it does. I don't think that changes the game plan enough, but that's something to keep an eye on. So Abu Sama III, higher than 75.5 rushing and receiving yards. Cade Klubnik, higher than 250.5 passing yards.
We're getting back on the winning train this week, so I've got 2 that I feel good about. We talked about Drew Aller already. I've got Drew Aller higher than 19.5 rushing yards. He's crossed this line in 2 of 3 games already this year, and Illinois has allowed at least 20 rushing yards to each of the last 3 starting quarterbacks. So look for Drew Aller to get out, get mobile. You only need 2 or 3 big runs. I think 1 or 2 scrambles. They're not going to do many direct runs to him, but he scrambles and he gets yards. Second one I got here is Khalil Mullins, higher than 80.5 rushing yards. He is the number 1 back in Ann Arbor.
So do we do can we ask college football to update the cover and put him instead of Donovan Edwards?
Yeah. Can we get rid of Donovan Edwards on the cover because he is not living up to the hype. The man fumbled in one of the worst possible situations for Michigan, and he scored a touchdown, but Mullins is so much better as a running back, way more consistent. And he's crossed 150 yards in the last 2 games each. So I think higher than 80.5 is a lock here. They play Minnesota this weekend. I love this line. He's going to get the touches. Alex Orji obviously is not going to pass the ball. They're going to use the running backs. Look for Mullins to go higher than 80.5. All right, let's get into our picks for this week. I actually did not. I updated everything except our picks for this week, so did a great job. Do you have any idea how many you won last week?
We both went 4-10. I updated that.
Oh, you updated it for us? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
We both went 4-10. So I hit on Tennessee where you missed. You went Oklahoma on the spread, and I hit on Utah, and you went Oklahoma State. I think those are the 2 biggest differences. And then the 2 ones that you hit that I missed were Illinois.
I took Illinois, and
I forget the other one.
You took Virginia Tech. I took Rutgers.
Yeah, that's it. So,
real quick, though, can we talk about Kansas State just getting absolutely whooped by BYU?
I've written off the whole state of Kansas.
Like the state of Kansas came into the season with a lot of hype and just did not live up to it.
And all of those points for BYU was in one quarter. Like the entire game happened in the second quarter, going into halftime.
Kansas State kicked 3 field goals. They just got desperate. They were going for it on 4th down, couldn't convert anything.
Yeah,
it was bad. It was really bad. All right, let's get into our picks for this week. We got 10 games here. No changes because we both won the same amount of games.
Yeah.
So let's get into this weekend slate. First game we got here is Friday night. We got Virginia Tech playing Miami, with Miami being an 18.5-point favorite.
A lot of points, Jake. That's a lot of points. And one thing that I want to key on is that Virginia Tech has the 28th ranked pass defense in the country, and they're 10th in the country in sacks. So I think they're going to be able to put some pressure on Cam Ward. I think 18.5 is a lot. I think Virginia Tech still has some life in them. It's going to be a Friday game, I believe. Is it? Yeah, it's going to be a Friday game.
Friday night game.
Freaky Friday football. Triple F. Put that on the T-shirt. I'm going Virginia Tech plus 18.5.
I am disagreeing with you already. Virginia Tech has let me down. They are not nearly as good as we thought they were going to be. I think they're going to get blown out. Miami looked pretty good against a USF team that gave Alabama problems. Cam Ward looks like he's the real deal. I like Miami at home. If this was in Virginia Tech, there would be fans in the stands, and I feel a little different about that. But
I don't know. Cam Ward might convince people to travel.
Give me Miami minus 18.5. I think they win by 3 scores. I think they win by 3 touchdowns. Next game we got here, Minnesota travels to Michigan with a weird line with Michigan only being favored by 9.5 points.
Dude, I'm going to be a plus sign merchant this week. I got Minnesota plus 9.5. I don't think Michigan's beating any Power 4 school, excuse me. It's going to be hard. It's still hard to break that and say Power 4 instead of Power 5. So you got to sit the pair with me. I don't think Michigan is going to beat any Power 4 school by double digits, especially not Minnesota, because I thought Minnesota's rush defense was pretty good. Like, watching the UNC game, they kept Omarion Hampton out of the end zone, which I thought that was like a lock pick when we went and made those picks. To don't go back to week 1 and listen to me talk about that. So I think I think Minnesota loses, but I think Minnesota is able to keep this within a 1-score game.
I think Michigan blows them out. I'll be honest. I think that they just continue to run the ball. I think they wear down that Minnesota defense. Minnesota's going to need turnovers to stay in this game because Michigan's just going to eat clock. They're going to eat it away. And I'm not confident in Minnesota being able to move the ball down the field if they're playing a field possession game. This is a field possession game and they're, getting pushed back inside their own 20. I'm not confident they're going to be able to run the ball. I don't really like the quarterback Max Brosmer. I don't think he's going to be able to do much. Will Johnson's going to be a big factor. Michigan's secondary has looked like a potential issue for players not named Will Johnson. So we'll see what happens there. Will Johnson doesn't play. Who knows what happened in the passing game, but the defensive line's obviously stacked.
Yeah.
I think Michigan wins. I think it's like 14 to 17 points. Nothing crazy, but they cover the spread.
Wow. All right. We're really going against each other.
Third game here. I already wrote all my 10 down too, so I'm not even switching on them. So third game here, we got Washington State traveling to Boise State. Boise is a 7.5 point favorite.
This game was really tough for me. I love Wazoo this year, but I love Boise State more, and I love Ashton Jeanty. Wazoo has the 83rd ranked rush defense in the country. I think Ashton Jeanty runs ruckshot over him. I think Boise State covers this one.
I don't know what it is about Wazoo, but I'm taking them. I don't know what it is. Wazoo has looked good. They're scoring points. That defense concerns me, but I think they're going to be able to put up enough points to stay within 7 of Boise, and I wouldn't shock me if they win this game.
What's the quarterback's name? Hold on now.
I'm blanking, but yes, I know who you're talking about. That guy was putting on a show against San Jose State on late Friday night, for any of us that stayed up and watching it.
John Mateer.
That's what it was, John Mateer.
Yeah, I love watching him play.
He was a gamer. He just goes out there and just puts his body on the line.
I love him so much I can't remember his name. I'm really killing it with the names today.
Oklahoma is a 2.5-point favorite on the road at Auburn this weekend.
So 2 programs not playing to their potential. However, I think Oklahoma had much higher expectations coming into this year, so them not playing their potential is still a better team than Auburn. I don't know what Vegas sees in this to make it that close. I think Oklahoma can kill them, especially with how good their defense is. I think they force turnovers. I think they run them out of the building.
One guy has shown confidence in his quarterbacks and even hyped up his backup quarterback. The other one has torn down both of them. I'm going to take the guy that continues to have confidence in his quarterbacks. Brent Venables still hyped up Jackson Arnold and said he's going to have a great career playing this game. Hugh Freeze basically told his quarterbacks they suck. I'll take the guy that's hyping his players up. Give me Oklahoma. Arizona goes to Utah. Utah is a 12.5-point favorite against Arizona.
Wait, hold on. Cam Rising is a game time decision in this game. So I don't know, man.
Forever a game time decision.
Give me Utah. The way they looked against Oklahoma State gave me a lot of confidence in a Cam Rising less team. So if he's able to play, I think they cover this easily, and I think this line says that he's going to play. However, if he doesn't, I still think they cover. I just think it's going to be a lot closer. Maybe a last-second touchdown to put them ahead by 14. But I think Utah's defense is so good that they're going to be able to slow down Arizona, as we saw Kansas State do to that Arizona offense.
Yeah, I just feel like Arizona is going to break out at some point. I'm going to take Arizona. This game is going to be close. Utah has really not blown anybody out so far this year. They have played way too many games closer than they should. Cam Rising, you just can't bank on him playing at this point. I mean, the guy is forever a game time decision. Who knows when he actually plays? Who knows if he plays? Give me Arizona. They at least have some offensive weapons that might be able to challenge Utah down the field with McMillan and Fafita. Moving on, weird line here. BYU travels to Baylor, and Baylor is favored by 3.5 points. Dave Aranda?
That's weird to me. This is one that I have in the air. Maybe Deron Finn's back. Deron Finn, I did it again. Why do I always want him to be Deron? He's just Deron to me. All right, from now on, he is Deron. I just have to screw up your name, sir. I'm sorry. No disrespect. I'm just an idiot. I had BYU written down, but the more I think of that game, I think I just want to fade that thought and get that out of here. I want to go with Baylor. I want to go with Baylor bouncing back. I want to go with Baylor minus 3.5. I don't feel great about it. However, I don't have a lot of confidence in that BYU team. The way they beat Kansas State looked great on the scoreboard, but I think it was a sloppy game by both teams. So give me Baylor to come out there and respond. I don't know. Coach playing for the man's job now.
I tend to agree where you're heading there, but I think BYU wins this. BYU's coming off a big game, and Baylor's coming off an absolute defeating loss. I think there's a hangover for this. I think Daquan Finn, I don't think he's expected to play, at least last I heard. But Sawyer Robertson looked good. BYU's got a pretty strong defense. They stopped Kansas State. They did not allow them into the end zone. I think this is a low-scoring affair, and I think BYU just finds a way to win this game. Or if they only lose by 3, I still get the win there too.
Yeah, well, BYU can't be hungover because they can't drink. So
no caffeine allowed in Provo. Oklahoma State will travel to Kansas State in 2 teams that lost last week and were really hoping that they would win, with Kansas State being a 4.5-point favorite.
This is the battle of the disappointments, and I think Oklahoma State is my favorite disappointment in this game. Ollie Gordon has to show up at some point. He showed a flash in the fourth quarter of that Arkansas game and in overtime, but he's got to have a come out party, and I think it's against this Kansas State team. I am so anti-Kansas right now because of what they've done to me personally. That them losing has been a personal attack to me. So give me Oklahoma State plus 4.5, please.
This is a weird game. I really want to take Kansas State, but I'm going to take Oklahoma State here. Oklahoma State, they're going to play them close. Alan Bowman is playing in his 97th year. He's on the Cam Rising schedule. Ollie Gordon has not played well. You think somebody's got to break out here. Is it Avery Johnson, with Kansas State, or is it Ollie Gordon with Oklahoma State? Neither team has played great this year. They both have struggled multiple times this year. Kansas State nearly lost to Tulane. Oklahoma State nearly lost to Arkansas. It's really a battle of who wants to stay a contender in the Big 12 because the loser's out. Losers for sure out. And I'm going to take Oklahoma State. I like what they've got better. I like the players on their team. I think that they're going to keep with it. The game that is a top 20 matchup, that shouldn't be a top 20 matchup. Louisville plays Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 6.5 point favorite in this game.
I have Louisville plus 6.5. I think they win this game outright. And we talked about earlier, I think their run defense is going to be good enough to stop Notre Dame. I think this is going to be a very, very low scoring game. So even if Notre Dame wins, I don't think they beat them by 6.5 points. I think I have more faith in Louisville than I do with Notre Dame.
I think I'm right there with you, but my faith is the lack in Riley Leonard being able to move the ball and score points. Like if we're sitting here next week, it wouldn't shock me if this is a 10-6 game.
Right.
Like I'm going to take Louisville to cover. I think this is low scoring. I don't think that Notre Dame's going to score a lot of points. I think Notre Dame wins this game, though. I just think that this is low scoring within 6 points.
Yeah.
Illinois will travel to Penn State. Penn State is a 17.5 point favorite. That is a lot of points. Do you like Illinois or Penn State?
It is a lot of points. I think Penn State wins this game. I think Illinois covers. I talked about it earlier. I think 17.5 is a lot. I think this Illinois team is a much better team than people anticipated. I don't think they're world beaters by any means, but I think they're very well coached. I think Luke Altmaier puts their team in really good situations, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and I think that'll keep them in this game. So give me Illinois plus 17.5.
Yeah, I'm taking Illinois as well. I think this line is showing something. There's a lot of people on the internet that think that Illinois is got a decent chance to win this game. And I think Illinois keeps this competitive in the first half, but I think Penn State starts to run away with this. I think the offensive line of Penn State and the running backs start to wear down this Illinois defense. I think they shorten the game because of keeping the ball on the ground. You said it earlier, the Penn State wide receivers, eventually somebody's going to step up. They have Amari Evans. They've got Harrison Wallace. They've got Julian Fleming, Tyler Warren, their tight end. Somebody's got to step up and make big plays.
Yeah.
Making big plays against Kent State does not matter. Making big plays against Bowling Green, I'm not impressed. Start doing it against a top 20 team in Illinois, a team that just beat a Nebraska team on the road, who's going on the road back-to-back weeks. Both are going to be hostile environments. Illinois proved they can win in a hostile environment, but this is a significantly more talented team. I think Penn State wins this game. I think it's around 10 to 14 points, but Illinois gives them a scare early.
Yeah.
Finally, the big game of the weekend. Georgia is a 2.5 point favorite against the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa.
I'm going to Alabama. I talked about it earlier. I like Alabama's weapons.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Oh, I can't say that out loud. That still makes me sick. Yeah, give me Alabama plus 2.5. I like Jalen Milroe. I like the games in Alabama. The game's in Alabama, right?
The game is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay, I started to panic a little bit. So let's have Kalen DeBoer come out and have his coming out party for the SEC and go ahead and establish dominance against that team up north to them.
What? They're next. The states are next to each other, or not?
No, but Alabama is south. Alabama is south of of Athens. Tuscaloosa is south of Athens.
You know your Southern geography better than I do. I'm going to take the Crimson Tide here, too. I think that this is obviously a fantastic game. Carson Beck has not played up to standards so far this year. You would have liked to see him have a little bit of a stronger game, especially against a game against Kentucky earlier this year, who did not play well against South Carolina. Alabama's going to be the best defense they faced so far this year. Carson Beck has played in big games, so he knows what it takes. But I'm going to take Alabama. I'm going to take Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe is going to cause problems for them. Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship game last year. There's a little bit of a revenge factor here. This game's in Athens. I probably feel different about it, but the game is in Tuscaloosa. I think that is worth a lot. This is going to be a hostile environment. Alabama does not get many games where it's going to be a loud, crazy environment at home. Yep. This is the most hyped up. This is going to be one of them. This is absolutely going to be one of them. Alabama, the fans are going to be ready. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a crazy environment. Give me the Tide. Not by a lot, but give me the Tide. That wraps it up for this week. Do you have anything else weird you'd like to add for this week?
No, I'm not gonna get weird this week. I just want to thank everybody for making it this far with us. It's been 4 weeks, Jake. It's been 4 weeks. We're going into week 5. We don't get many Saturdays. This is a beautiful sport. Don't take it for granted. Take your kids for granted. Take your family for granted. Take your house, your chores, take all those things for granted. Do not take college football for granted, because you know what's going to happen when it's March? We're going to be wishing it was back. So be here. Don't talk about terrible slates. Don't talk about, well, my best friend has to get married, blah, 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 blah. No. Sit on your couch, rest, watch college football, have a couple crispy boys with the boys or the girls. Make it a family event. And if they don't want to be involved, shun them. College football is the most beautiful thing. And appreciate it, people. Please. That is my words of wisdom that I leave with you today.
Make sure to follow us on social media. Give this podcast a rate, subscribe. Make sure you catch all the action. You can follow us on Walk-On Redshirts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Threads. If you're really into the Threads app, you can follow Will on Twitter and Instagram as well. You can find him at Walk-On Moose, or his actual name on Instagram. Make sure to check out the Walk-On Weekly 10. We've got 19 people that have already joined in our Walk-On Weekly 10 so far. Ty Sheeney, I don't know how you say his last name, is currently leading at 70%, but he's only played 1 week. You got to play 5 weeks to get some Walk-On Redshirt merchandise. Justin Kripe, our own Justin Kripe, sitting in second at 60%. Dustin B 429 has played 3 weeks and sitting at 60%. A bunch of people sitting at 50%. Still plenty of time to play it. We got more than half the season left. So all you got to do is play 5 weeks. Winner with the best win percentage at the end of the year wins some Walk-On Redshirt merch. So check that out. That'll be out usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays of every week. And so make sure to join that. Put your picks in. Have a chance to win. Free to play. No entry required. With that being said, appreciate you all joining us. And we'll be back here again next week to recap week 5 and look into week 6, the first weekend in October.
Wow.